The World Wide Web has grown to become a powerful force in the field of education. Colleges and universities use it for distance learning classes. Even elementary and high school teachers encourage their students to use the web as a research tool. In Alabama, one website is popular with Alabama history teachers. Ray Jones has developed a website called Ray's Alabama History. Jones began putting parts of Alabama history into the web about 6 years ago. Alabama Public Radio's Butler Kane spoke with Jones this week about his site and his book on Alabama governors.
Oh yeah, it's a hobby. I was a high school teacher, history teacher before I went into the media, and I've watched a lot of history and read about a lot of history. And when the web became a viable entity that I could afford, and just put a little bit of the Alabama history stuff up, always making sure that I don't infringe on anyone's copyright, put something up there and take credit for it as someone else. And I think for the most part everybody else does the same thing. But it's one of my avocations.
How often do you go looking for things to put on this, or do people email you to say, hey, I noticed you haven't had anything on this, you might want to look this way for something on that, or do you try to update it fairly regularly, or keep what you have and just add to it?
Well, it really depends. I haven't put much new up here lately because I've been working on another project, sort of a source book on Alabama governors. Eventually going to put some of the information there, where all the governors are buried, a little bit of information about each one of them. Archives has an excellent source of information on the governors, but they didn't have anything on where they're buried. I think once I saturate or get rid of the books that I've printed on the governors, I'll probably put them up, some of that information up sort of as a teaser. I had the quiz up there that, for a while, the 4 questions regarding various questions about the governor, and got a lot of response from that. For instance, for a while, the Secretary of State had that link on their website, so a lot of kids would go to that particular quiz, and then from there, if they wanted to, they'd be referred back to Ray's Alabama history page, or they could go over it wherever they wanted to. There's a whole lot of different things that I really probably don't have up there, but when I get some time, I'll probably add some more things.
Of course, you mentioned that you are working on a book about Alabama governors, and you also have a link on your Ray's Alabama history page where you can check out a sample of that work. Is that right?
Right, yeah. That's been interesting. That's the only way I've advertised it. I've sold probably 70 of them now. Just people logging on and then going to the website. I sent a few emails to public libraries, but other than that, I'm printing it myself on my printer and then bringing it to Tuscaloosa and having it bound in Tuscaloosa bindery, so I haven't done too many of them. And I don't think I'm going to really advertise it because I can't afford it in printers. It's in color. It includes photographs of all the official portraits of the governors, and that's something that's also not available, along with who painted the portrait originally, and then also where they're buried. And in the burial spot, I put the GPS, the global position, so that if anyone had a GPS, they could go find into the governors no matter where they're buried. Adding a little technology to an old history type thing.
You have an interesting story about one of our former governors who is buried not in Alabama but out in Texas.
Gabriel Moore was the 5th governor of Alabama. He also was a United States Senator, and he was a 3-term congressman. he went to Texas after he left Congress and lived there for 2 years and then died unexpectedly. And he's buried in an unmarked grave outside of Marshall, Texas. Through a lot of research that had been done originally by Marie Bankhead Owen and the Department of Archives, I feel sure that I have identified within 8 feet of where he was buried. So I've expressed an interest I've asked for it, the governor, Director of Archives and History, Historical Commission, so let's do something about it. And as of today, I've not seen any movement on the part of trying to either put a marker out there, the people who own the property are willing for that to happen, or to institute a plan to bring his body back, bury him in Huntsville. But that's one of my applications. It's going to get a little heated up now after the election, because I really think something needs to be done about it. There's 17 other governors who are buried in unmarked graves. I'm sorry, not unmarked graves. They do not have a marker that says that they were governor of Alabama. So something needs to be done about that too. There needs to be a marker on the grave of the governor that says he was governor of Alabama.
How long do you plan to keep up the books and the website?
Oh, the website will be up indefinitely. I keep on. That's just an application. Keeps me out of a lot of trouble, I'm sure. But, the history of the governors, I'm basically through with. So I'll have to get on to something else. I think the next thing is going to be trying to do something about marking each of the governors grave with an indication that they were governor of Alabama. There are some really interesting folks out there that the history books often have more about. Of course, there's just only so much time in the day to put so much information in the textbook. So the internet is an excellent source for you to provide information that people can take or leave. And they also all need to look at just about everything you see with sort of a jaundiced eye. And to that end, I try to make sure that everybody knows where mine comes from. If they want to question it, they can certainly do so because they have my email address.
Ray Jones, Alabama History website, can be found at alabamastuff.com. His book about Alabama governors is titled Alabama Governors, Then and Now.